Breaking news coming out overnight as last night the House of Representatives, they finally passed the debt ceiling bill, and they're saying this was a big win for Kevin McCarthy, but not everybody believes it. We're hearing that the Republican Party is now breaking apart and saying they're about ready to oust Kevin McCarthy because they said he gave into all of the concessions. I'm going to get you caught up on this, and we're hearing this is going to get fast-tracked now in the Senate. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is saying we have got to get this through today. However, we're hearing there could be delays. Take a look. Paul DeForest a debt ceiling vote to cut total spending, saying we lost the cuts with McCarthy. We've got to put them back in. Now, also, we've got a limited time to get this done. We're hearing that they pretty much got to get it done this week. And if not, it's going to be impacting everybody, not just our nation and our good standing, but the entire world and Social Security payments. We've heard Medicare, Medicaid, veterans benefits, those on SSI, disability, everybody will be disrupted in payments, we're hearing, if they do not get this done. So there's a lot at stake. And speaking of Social Security, stick around to the end. If you missed my most recent videos, you're going to want to see the latest, as there are new bills coming out proposing massive increases to Social Security. And those of you on SSI, you should have received your first payment for June today, but there's a second one coming, and I covered the calendar schedule in a most recent video, as double payments will be coming out for June. It's that July payment coming early. Stick around to the end for an update on that as well. But you guys, let's dive into the latest and get you caught up as to the breaking news that came out overnight, as they did pass this in the House of Representatives and what it all means, so you know the latest. Now, before we dive in, do me a quick favor. If you appreciate the updates, don't forget, smash the like button. Just takes a second. Thank you so much. Hit subscribe to stay up to date. Totally free. Why not? Turn on the notification bell, and I'll keep you up to speed on everything. But with that being said, you guys, let's go ahead and dive into these articles and get you caught up on the latest. All right, so link in the description below to this article that just came out yesterday evening that says the House passes the debt ceiling bill in a big win for McCarthy. Here are some takeaways. Now, the House passage of the debt limit deal Wednesday night marks the end of a pivotal chapter of a new House GOP majority, putting Congress on the path to avoid a default and securing a huge victory for Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy, even as it infuriates conservatives in his own conference. Now, the vote followed months of jockeying between McCarthy and President Biden over the appropriateness of negotiating future spending as a part of the effort to extend the government's borrowing authority, a fight that McCarthy won handily by forcing Biden reluctantly to the table. But the final agreement also excluded most of the spending cuts and other favored positions in the partisan debt ceiling package Republicans passed last month, highlighting the political realities and potential pitfalls of shepherding big ideas through a divided Washington. So in other words, all of the things that McCarthy had said that he would not increase the debt ceiling for, a lot of them in the end, he gave in. With a final vote of 314 to 117, the bill overwhelmingly passed, and McCarthy garnered a yes vote from about 2/3 of the Republican conference. But overall, more Democrats voted for the bill than GOP lawmakers. Here are the takeaways. Now, first, relations within the House GOP conference have soured. For House GOP leaders, the debt ceiling win came at a cost of strained internal relationships. Graves, who was a negotiator with the White House on the deal, expressed frustration with members of the House Freedom Caucus criticizing the package, particularly Representative Chip Roy. Some trust was lost, he said. I'm not going to lie. There really was, and I'm really offended. Play into the hands of the White House, is what he said with his criticism. We have some relationship repairs that need to happen, he said. We're going to need to sit down and talk, and probably over several drinks or something like that initially, he said. Roy responded to Graves' loss of a trust on Twitter. Garrett and I will sit down and talk about it. He's a good man, and he and Patrick McHenry worked hard on this. But this is the country we're talking about, and the bill is exactly what it is, Roy said. Frustrated conservatives also went after party leaders for ignoring their concerns, characterizing the Republicans' all-hands briefings on the package as cosmetic exercises with no real purpose. Asked if GOP leaders were listening to members' concerns, Lauren Boebert didn't pause. No, they weren't responsive to any concerns. They never are. Higher chances of an attempt to oust Kevin McCarthy from the speaker position. Now, conservative outrage about the bill not having deep enough cuts has increased the chances of McCarthy facing a GOP mutiny. We've already had a difficult time to get him into that position. Now they're saying they're ready to kick him out. Now, any single member can make a motion to vacate the chair, which would force a vote on removing McCarthy as speaker. Dan Bishop became the first member to officially call for such a motion over the debt bill on Tuesday, saying, I think it's got got to be done. He did not explicitly commit to making the motion, saying that he would first consult with his colleagues. There's 222 members of the Republican conference. Nobody in the Republican conference could have done a worse job, he said, referring to McCarthy. Now, what does this all mean and what's actually included in the bill? Well, I've covered it in detail in previous videos, but very quickly, let's just recap to remind ourselves about what is in this deal that was just passed. So it addresses the debt ceiling, increasing the debt ceiling, making sure that we are not going to be entering into a U.S. default. It also caps non-defense spending. So defense spending will continue on, but they're saying all of these other programs, we got to slow down this spending. It protects veterans' medical care, expands work requirements, and this is for a lot of the food benefits, such as Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program or SNAP, or as food stamps, which they're formerly known as. They're going to require that you work. Clawbacks of COVID-19 relief funds. I've let you know for quite some time that there's an excess of $400 billion still just sitting there. They're going to be pulling a lot of that back and saying, let's use it to offset the debt. Cuts to the IRS service funding. As you guys know, there was a lot of funding that was going to go to the IRS. They were saying they were going to be doing audits on the wealthiest Americans and big corporations to help get more funding. They're now taking that money back because they're saying we do not need that, and they're likely going to be auditing just the average everyday person. Restarts of the student loan payments. These are going to be implemented and starting again in August. Maintain the climate and clean energy measures and expedites the pipeline in West Virginia. Now, as I mentioned, this is going to get expedited in the Senate. We're hearing today. Take a look. Article link down below just came out 14 minutes ago as Schumer seeks to fast track the debt ceiling bill through the Senate. And it says Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer will attempt to fast-track a bill through the Senate on Thursday today to raise the debt limit for 2 years and cap government spending as the U.S. barrels towards a June 5th deadline to avert a debt default. Now, the Senate will stay in session until we send a bill avoiding default to President Joe Biden's desk. We will keep working until the job is done, Schumer said on the Senate floor in opening on Thursday's session. Time is a luxury that the Senate does not have if we want to prevent a default. The Fiscal Responsibility Act was passed in the Republican majority House late Wednesday night yesterday by an overwhelming bipartisan majority, sending it to the Democratic-controlled Senate, which met Thursday and plans to take it up today. Now, in order to fast-track the bill through the chambers and vote on it before Monday, all 100 senators must agree to the plan and give their unanimous consent for the bill to bypass a notoriously slow Senate procedure. Herein lies the challenge. At least 3 senators, Utah Republican Mike Lee, Kentucky Republican Ron Paul, and Virginia Democrat Tim Kaine, indicated that they have serious objections to specific parts of the bill. Now, on Thursday, Kaine introduced an amendment that would strip the House bill of the last-minute provision that all but guaranteed the approval of the Mountain Valley Pipeline, a controversial natural gas pipeline through West Virginia and Virginia. Now, in a typical Senate process, these members would be expected to slow down the Senate deliberations on the bill, propose amendments to it, try to get those amendments passed by a vote and added to the bill. And if they succeed, send the amended bill back to the House for another vote. But with just days to go before the June 5th deadline set by Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, at which point the United States would likely be unable to meet its debt obligations, Schumer made it clear on Wednesday that the bill could not move backwards. We can't send anything back to the House, he said. That would risk default, plain and simple. So this is likely going to be taking place today. We're going to see what's happening in the Senate, but take a look as we have Senator Ron Paul, who said he's going to be forcing a tough debt ceiling vote to cut total spending. Let's take a look at the video footage so you can see it for yourself.
Easy one, because some senators are already voicing their opposition. Senator Rand Paul, Republican of Kentucky, says he will force a vote on an amendment that would cut federal spending by 5% in each of the next 2 years by reducing various programs. And then some people wonder what those should be. But Senator Paul is here with us right now to discuss his plan and how he feels about the current debt agreement. Thank you so much for coming back to Rising, Senator.
Glad to be with you.
So what do you think of the deal that was reached, and what do you hope to vote on that would be different?
Well, I don't think there's anything conservative about the Biden-McCarthy plan. To add unlimited spending or unlimited borrowing for the next 2 years, go all the way through the next election, basically is an abdication of any kind of responsibility, any kind of fiscal responsibility. There'll be no discussion over any kind of restraint in spending after we allow the borrowing to go up for 2 years. You're right that some people have estimated it will be as much as $4 trillion in new debt. So for someone to say, oh, well, this is the conservative, this is historic conservative deal that adds $4 trillion in debt over 2 years, that's nonsense. And so I don't think anybody really believes that. And the vast majority of the American people would like something more. I know people in my state, we still believe in a balanced budget. We thought that's what conservatives were for. And the constitutional amendment that we have voted on in the past actually requires a balance in 5 years. So I've always taken 5 years as sort of the believable window of time in which you should try to balance the budget. Anything that's 10 years or longer becomes less believable because you don't know what people will do 5 or 10 years from now and whether they'll adhere to what you've asked them to do. So what I've done is put forward the spending caps necessary to balance in 5 years. And then we also do allow the debt ceiling to go up because it takes 5 years to balance. There'll still be some more accumulation of debt. But we only let the debt go up $500 billion. Now, that used to be a lot of money, even in Washington, but $500 billion anymore lasts 6 months. Who knows? It goes pretty quickly. But what that would do is, at the end of 6 months, we'd be forced to go through this again. Some people say, oh, this is a terrible thing to go through for the country. I think the opposite. I think this discussion over the lack of money, the $1 trillion annual deficits, and the mismatch between revenue and spending is something we should be discussing all of the time. So if we were forced to come back here in 6 months and have the same discussion, I think it would be the best thing we could possibly do for the country. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll have the votes. No Democrat will vote to cut spending if it's a real cut in spending like mine. And of the Republicans, only about half of them. This is kind of what you saw in the House as well. About a third of the Republicans were conservative enough to say this is a crazy, no good deal and it won't help balance the budget. But 2/3 of Republicans went along with it. And, you know, we'll be about a half to 2/3 here. We'll go along with this as well.
So there you have it. Let me know your thoughts. Now, in addition to that, as we mentioned, there's a lot depending on this getting through. This is going to be impacting everybody. If we have a default in Social Security, we're hearing that there could be massive disruptions and delays. Now, at the same time, Social Security has had some new legislation, new proposals come out, new bills suggesting that we enhance the benefits, extend the solvency, change the taxation. There's an assortment of different things in these bills saying that we have got to get new funding going on because we're running out of money. New systems need to be put into place. Now, one of the big ones that has come out and is finally starting to get traction is the Social Security 2100 Act. And if you missed it, you're going to want to check it out. In addition to that, as I mentioned, the SSI payments, the first ones for June should have arrived today, but there is a second one that's going to be on the way as a result of the payment calendar schedule. So if you missed those videos, check them out right here. I'll put some links on the screen for you. You can go ahead and click them and go check out the latest on Social Security as well. And as more information comes out on the debt ceiling negotiations and what's taking place in the Senate, I'll be sure to keep you guys up to speed every step of the way. But with that being said, you guys, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.